Yeah, we have so many different product offerings now that it can be done, virtually immediately, depending on how the merchant might want to accept. But Flex is really built to help merchants thrive in this next era of commerce. And what that means for us, and you touched on a few things talking to Matt there about legislation that's coming. I mean, when Genius, just a hint, the rumor of Genius started, we saw merchants get really interested. When that passes, then you start to see a lot more roll in. The same things happen with clarity right now. Merchants are interested because there's a promise of clarity. The next thing is going to be tax reform. And we've talked about this publicly a few times, but we need de minimis relief tax reform. So when folks go and they buy a cup of coffee, it's not a taxable event. So really there's this three-pronged thing. It was Genius for stablecoins, clarity for market structure, and then tax reform. When merchants have all three of those things, and there's actual law controlling three of those things, I think they're going to start to really roll in, and this whole thing just sort of explodes.
Alrighty, everybody, what is going on? Welcome back to another CYPRX video breakdown. That gentleman right there was Danny McCabe, the CEO and co-founder of Flexa, explaining that when regulatory clarity is firmly put in place, we are still set to experience massive upside potential in the digital asset ecosystem. And so in today's video breakdown, I want to really go over the regulatory landscape and show you guys an in-depth look at what we're still waiting for, but then also show you all, maybe break this down in a two-part series video breakdown, show you guys that these financial institutions have told us that this pullback is a blessing in disguise, and they are for a fact positioning themselves into the discounted environment in the digital asset ecosystem. And so we as retail traders should again follow suit, in my personal opinion, following what smart money is doing. So I'm going to show you all that information in today's video breakdown. Do me a favor, if you enjoy, smash that thumbs up button and subscribe. No hopium, no hype, just real research, real insights that actually matter in this space. Always appreciate you guys for returning to the CYPRX YouTube. Let's dive in. So here I said, regulation is incoming. This crash was a blessing in disguise, a nice pullback before regulatory clarity, before the level playing field. I also said over here in a recent post, this purge is happening for a reason. People really thought that institutions would buy at a premium, considering that this year, the total cryptocurrency market cap, right before institutions are about to get regulatory clarity and for the first time ever, legally be able to onboard and allocate more than 1 to 3% into the digital asset ecosystem, you really think that they were going to buy at 4.24 trillion, where the total cryptocurrency market cap topped out back in October on the 6th of this year? Most likely not. They're going to drop the market, shake out retail leverage, enter at a discount when everyone else is fearful and scared. And that is exactly what this gentleman from Bitwise goes on to talk about in this recent podcast that Milk Road aired just a few days ago. Take a second and listen.
I'm not shocked. I don't know what Ryan thinks. I'm not shocked. What I think I've realized is that I misweighed two forces, right? So if you think about what's going on in the market right now, Harvard is buying and retail is selling, right? Abu Dhabi is buying and crypto natives are selling. And I think when we entered the year, the assumption was that the massive purchases from institutions and corporations would be more than enough to soak up any additional supply from retail selling. And I think the element to which I'm surprised with is that there's more retail selling than I anticipated. I think the thing that I didn't factor in was people, I think, pre-freaking out about the 4-year cycle and wanting to dodge the 30, 40, 50% pullback in the market that they saw coming in 2026. I didn't think about that psychological effect. I think that's what we're living through. I think we have to finish living through it and then we bottom. But I do think we're sort of short-circuiting the 4-year cycle now, probably closer to the bottom than the start. And I think it's still upward over the long period of time.
So it mentions to talk about how bigger entities are buying and retail is fearful and selling. And so that's going to lead me over to the ideology behind what happens after regulatory clarity. We as retail investors really truly need to understand that all the hopium, all the hype, all the outrageous price predictions, they're all being given to us by these influencers on the internet before regulatory clarity, before the institutions can even pump these prices up that high. And so, of course, every single time these influencers give these price predictions, it all ends up just being hopium and hype because the institutions still don't have the foundation that they need in order to truly scale into this ecosystem. Now that is coming, and that is what I'm going to show you guys in today's video breakdown. So I said here, crazy to watch how fast this space is maturing. Regulators are literally rewriting the banking playbook to make room for digital assets. National trust charters, stablecoin licenses, corporate crypto policies, it's all happening right in front of us. Most people are distracted by price action, but the real signal is in the regulation. This is how the next wave of adoption gets built. We are early, stay educated, stay positioned. The future of finance is being drafted right now. And all of these types of documents can be found in our CYPRX Discord in the research section. So that way you guys are not misguided and misled by the average influencer on the internet, telling you guys that these major price appreciation events are going to happen before regulation comes into play, because that is not realistic. Now, I'm not the only person that holds this thought process, this narrative. Just like the gentleman, Danny McCabe, said at the beginning of today's video breakdown, that when regulatory clarity is clear, we are set to see institutional FOMO, the likes of which we've never seen before. Take a second and listen to the Chief Strategy Officer at Ondo Finance go on to say and mention and talk about the same exact thing.
Additional finance also become interested in these assets. Going forward, how do you see that evolving? Like what will drive more of traditional finance onto, have more of their balance sheets in
Yeah, historically the big lacking factor was just regulatory clarity, right? A lot of the big TradFis will only move meaningful assets on chain if they can figure out who the qualified custodian is, and if they feel comfortable that the regulatory framework is clear enough so that internally the person who's saying, yes, please move significant funds over on chain, they don't get into trouble. Clarity historically has been lacking. Now with the Genius Act passing, I think there's a lot of hope that clarity is coming. I do think we need the market structure bill to pass, because that will truly mark the moment where the TradFis have true clarity on how custody can work, how they can implement their custody solutions, who can actually hold these assets on chain, can that entity also hold crypto and the like. So once that bill passes, I think you'll see even more movement of TradFis on chain. But the writing right now is on the wall given the Genius Act. So the appetite of TradFis to start moving balances on chain and to prepare for that moment, I'd say is higher than anything I've ever seen. And I've been working with TradFi since 2016 on the topic. It's night and day difference.
Really? How are you seeing that?
Everyone wants to get involved. Quite frankly, everyone's worried now about, missing the moment. Because these days, I think people understand what a stablecoin is increasingly. Not everyone's there, but the whole concept of moving assets on crypto rails and making it available to a global audience, that's kind of a very easy narrative to understand. And once you understand that for a stablecoin, you can then very easily draw the parallel to broader US capital market products. So if you look at the growth of a stablecoin and even the growth of tokenized treasuries to date, it's quite easy to see how other asset classes can experience a similar hockey stick. That for TradFi is a move that they cannot miss. And they've always been comfortable putting the brakes on as long as they could be a fast follower. But the moment to fast follow is now. So there's only so many also crypto native companies that these TradFis can work with, right? A lot of them do not have the capabilities in-house to truly start moving on chain. There's not that many credible crypto native companies that can help them make that move. And so there is a little bit of, I wouldn't call it partnership FOMO going on, but these TradFis are smart enough to know that the time to move is now. They cannot miss the move, and crypto native companies only have so much bandwidth to support them. So if they want to start making the move, they need to act now.
Now, that was a huge statement and a lot to soak up. But bottom line is that these institutions are well prepared to enter into this space. They just need regulatory clarity. Now, here at CYPRX, we are a firm believer of higher prices and a much higher price tag on digital assets like XRP and the likes thereof. But we are here to bring people back to reality, to get you guys to see what needs to be implemented in order for those things to really materialize and come into fruition. So that way we're not here just guessing and hoping and praying for price appreciation and being misled like the average retail investor. So let's head over here. Here is a document shared by the CYPRX researchers inside the CYPRX private research chat. Now, mind you, again, if you guys want access to some of the deepest institutional research and some of the best documents in this space shared from some of the largest organizations, the panel discussions that go relatively unnoticed, the LinkedIn profiles that people should be paying attention to, the closed door meetings, all of those things are shared inside the private CYPRX Discord via the research team. So head over to CYPRXtrading.com and tap in with us, get access to some of the best insights in the game, non-mainstream retail hype, and the actual insights that matter in this space. Coming over here, this was a really great read from November 20th, 2025 from the Solana Policy Institute. And this is a letter to Mr. President Trump directly from Solana Policy Institute. And it goes over everything that they believe needs to come into fruition in order for institutional digital asset adoption to really, truly scale. So obviously, of course, a very lengthy document. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but what I did do is I took a secondary document that was also posted in the CYPRX research chat titled Global Crypto and FinTech Regulatory Update. So it gives updates on the digital asset ecosystem, what's happening in different jurisdictions, and everything that's set to take place in the coming months ahead, all the way up until about June 2026. And so taking these two documents and plugging them into artificial intelligence to kind of speed up the reading process today, what I did is I went through and I asked ChatGPT to not only read these documents, but to go on to give me a breakdown thoroughly of what needs to take place in order for there to be large-scale institutional adoption. And so that is what I'm going to read, understanding that after ChatGPT read both of these documents, this is what it has updated me on. So number one, some things that need to really materialize and come into fruition to give us a realistic expectation as to when we can really see institutions onboard at scale. These are the regulatory requirements that need to be met. Number one, U.S. tax clarity for digital assets. Now, interestingly enough, that's also exactly what you heard the gentleman at the beginning of today's video breakdown say needed to happen. There needs to be clear tax implications so that way when you go spend crypto on a cup of coffee, you don't get hit with some outrageous tax responsibility. Banks won't touch products when the IRS rules are still unclear. We still need clear guidance on staking rewards, mining rewards, airdrops, forks, wrapping, bridging events, rules confirming whether collateralized loans, liquidations, and redemptions create taxable events, final guidance on stablecoin payments, and de minimis expectations. Until these rules are settled, institutions cannot model risk or build compliant products. Number two, SEC and CFTC rule clarity. Banks need to know who regulates what, and that's still pending. Clear distinction of what is a security versus what is a commodity, which the market structure bill should entail that. A unified framework for DeFi protocols, self-custody, and digital asset intermediation. No action relief for developers and front end so banks can safely build on open protocols. Right now, banks fear enforcement because definitions are inconsistent and outdated. Number three, the Bank Secrecy Act modernization. FinCEN has not yet updated key AML and CFT rules for tokenized value. Pending clarity includes what compliance standards apply to stablecoins, how programmable compliance and on-chain KYC will be treated, and whether banks must treat on-chain wallets as accounts under BSA rules. That is very important considering that some blockchains are BSA compliant and some are not. Without this, banks cannot offer on-chain settlement at scale. Digital Asset Market Structure Bill. Banks need a full federal market structure law, the one Congress is currently working on now. This bill would finally define spot market oversight, custody rules, capital requirements, broker-dealer permissions, tokenized issuance frameworks. This is a big one. Nothing moves without it. Number five, global interoperability standards. From Singapore to Australia to the EU, every jurisdiction is building digital asset frameworks. This is what the PDF showed. What is still missing? Unified stablecoin rules, tokenized bank liability standards, cross-border settlement frameworks, coordinated AML compliance across jurisdictions, and banks cannot scale globally until these frameworks are aligned. Number six and number seven, final clarity on tokenized deposits and real-world custody. Banks need explicit rules confirming tokenized deposits are treated the same as bank liabilities. Tokenized real-world asset meets custody plus capital rules. Programmable compliance frameworks like Singapore's Bloom are accepted in the US. Right now, everything is still a pilot stage, not production grade. Legal protections for developers and open source software. Yes, this matters for banks too. The DOJ can prosecute developers for writing code. Banks will never build on open protocols. What's needed? Section 230, protections for open source DeFi software. Clear code as speech guidance, and ending regulation by prosecution. Banks require certainty that infrastructure teams are not criminally liable. When these last regulatory pieces fall into place, it's game over. Banks, asset managers, broker-dealers, payment networks, they will all likely start to enter. This is the moment when tokenization becomes standard, stablecoins become mainstream payment rails, DeFi becomes the back-end infrastructure for finance, interoperable settlements run 24/7 globally, and trillions of institutional capital migrate on-chain. And like I mentioned in the previous post, we are watching the final steps being built out right now. And when they're complete, this market will not look anything like it does today. So that is it for the first portion of today's video breakdown. I wanted to give you guys a real clear, thorough understanding, taking a look at these two updated documents, mashing them together, and just showing you guys what they go over and what they talk about in thorough detail as to what still needs to happen in the digital asset ecosystem for us to really see banks step in at scale. Now, again, there are different timelines for all of these things, and I do firmly believe that within the next, I'd say 6 to 12 months max, we will see these things firmly implemented and put into place. Time will tell. As always, if you guys enjoyed this realistic outlook, giving you guys sort of an awakening as to what still needs to happen without the hopium, without the hype, and just real research, real insights into the game, do me a favor, smash that thumbs up button and subscribe. Don't forget to wait for the second portion of today's video breakdown, as I'm going to show you guys physical proof that they are telling you all that they are prepared to enter back into this space. With that being said, many blessings. I'll see you guys over in part 2.